host for today is Samantha Deacon. I work from this space, coaching tech startups from the University of Sheffield. We've got Dan Dukeson with us today from Receptive.io, who's going to be talking to us about metrics, benchmarks, decision making, and whatever else you want to ask him about, anything else on his entire CV, I guess. So thank you very much for joining us, Dan. We had a little bit of a conversation before we started today, before we sat down here, so I'm hoping that we're going to bring out some of the stuff from that and not have used up all the best content before we get the camera rolling. But just as a quick intro to Dan, Dan's the founder, as I mentioned, and COO of Receptive.io. He's founded or co-founded a number of startups over the last couple of years. And before that, you were working as a software developer in in multiple organisations since you graduated from University of Sheffield, I believe, Department of Faculty of Engineering. Materials. So I guess the first question I'd like to ask is, why the switch from working as a software developer in someone else's organisation to founding and launching your own startups?
Okay, that's a good one. So I found out sort of while I was at university, I found out that I loved programming and I had some sort of talent at it. So got a job working for eBuyer and realised that I liked working in the software industry and thrived on it, loved it. So at some point you realise you've got a valuable skill, and so we made a software agency where we kind of gang up and bring contractors together to deliver bigger contracts and make some more money. And then you realise that you hate running an agency and you hate clients. A client is a terrible person that gives you a lot of money and then owns you for like a period of time, which you've got to take the money and do what you're told. So me and Han really were looking for an opportunity to become a product business, to build a product that you could, rather than you do a bunch of work and you see the results of your labour go away and never come back, and you never get the credit and you never get to improve things. We wanted to build something that we could improve and grow. So we kept our eyes open for an opportunity, and eventually one came up, and so we got into the product game, software product game, SaaS, software as a service specifically. So yeah, it was about wanting to do something that you can continuously improve and own, and it's that kind of need, I guess, as a software person to create things. It's kind of, and then make money out of them. It's optional, but that'd be nice.
And you mentioned Hannah just then, who is your co-founder for Receptive.
Yeah.
So how long have you known Hannah, and how did you meet Hannah?
We met at a software agency we worked at in Sheffield, which was like must be 8-9 years ago. So we knew each other there, and we started a couple of things together since then.
Okay. And so before Receptive, it was Order Harmony.
Yeah.
What was Order Harmony? Just if you could run us through what Order Harmony was,
yeah.
And then what Receptive is, and what big problems you're solving with Receptive.
Yeah. So Order Harmony was a product that we sold to small medium enterprises, SMEs, that was basically trying to automate the back office system. So it's about taking orders, making sure you had enough stock, selling things to customers, delivering them, purchasing, waiting for goods to arrive. It was very much like managing the back office of like a wholesaler business or some e-commerce businesses. We built that, and we went through an accelerator. We raised a little bit of money.
Was that the Ignite accelerator?
Yeah, in 2012. I'm one of those weird people that have done 2 accelerators, which is not advisable really, but
why not? Why is that not advisable?
It can be. The second opportunity came at the right time. So
was it different accelerators, or was it Ignite?
It's the same brand, but it's very different by that time. 3 years later, it's a different thing. Much more useful the second time, I guess, in terms of the value that accelerators offer, I guess. So yeah, one of the big problems that we faced as a software business in building Order Harmony was 100 tiny customers, mostly tiny, a few big guys, lots of free trialers. So people would come along and they would, I used to think, and I was the guy that had to pick up the phone to do support, so I felt this pain pretty acutely, was that I reckon 1 in 3, 1 in 4 conversations was really about a feature request. It was really a customer saying, okay, you've got a zillion features, I need this one, why haven't I got it? I complained about it a month ago and you still haven't built it. And that conversation, that explaining, look, we've got lots of customers, we've got to look after everyone, and having that conversation over and over was just really, was a real drag, really. It was kind of the worst part of the job. So you kind of build up this enormous list of things that you could build, but you can't build everything, especially when you've got a really tiny team and you're trying to support the platform. So this problem was always there. And at some point, sort of throwing ideas around in the office, we realised that that would be a really cool product to build, a product to solve that issue, is to take that pain out of the software product business. So that's where the idea was born. At some point, we kind of, I stepped away, me and Hannah started Receptive to sort of give it a go, try and solve it.
So Receptive was really born out of a problem you were experiencing yourself in your previous startup, and so I guess you've found out since then that lots of other people have this problem as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So we prototyped it. Got a friend with a SaaS business to try it out, and we bounced ideas around. Prototyped it, used it ourselves, and realised that it was bringing out some kind of really interesting insights in that there was features that we were barely aware of that in fact were really important to customers. So we realised we were onto something. So we did, we'd read the mom test, and we went out finding, we did as much customer development as we could. Wouldn't say I'm an expert at it, but tried to get people on the phone, talk through the problem. Everyone's got the problem, or lots of people have got the problem, and so at some point we got in touch with Ignite to say we're doing this, and they invited us to go to apply to go on an accelerator again. So me and Hannah basically said, let's spend 3 months on this, see if we can make a go of it. Burning cash. At some point,
whose cash was that?
Our own cash. We weren't taking any salary, we weren't selling any product. So at the right time, the accelerator came along and said, come do the accelerator. So that obviously delivers you with a bunch of cash, a bunch of runway, and the opportunity to work on it all for another X number of months. And then out the back of the accelerator, we raised some money, during that process, maybe just after, we switched on. Customers started charging people. So this was like September. We raised money in September last year, about the same time as we started charging customers.
And you mentioned runway in passing then. Can you just explain to everybody what you mean by runway?
Yeah.
Runway you've had at Receptive.
All right. So runway is how long you can last before you run out of money. You can run out. Sometimes you can run out of money and keep going, but how long before you're dead? So what's the least runway I've had? Well, we had 3 months runway when we were prototyping it. That ran out. We kept going. I guess when we went in the accelerator, we'd have had 20 grand in the bank to start with. So what's that? 4 or 5 months runway. I think we just scraped that. I think we had about £1,000 left in the bank when we then raised the seed round. So yeah, it's been pretty easy. But you got to be pretty. So I like to. You need to know what your runway is. This is a metric, right? It's an important metric. How many months have we got to live? Why is it important? Well, if you're funded, if you've got venture capital, or angel funding, family and friends funding your business, whatever it is. The right time to go out and ask for more money is when you don't need it. So don't, the process of raising money, even if you can, which you usually can't, the process takes 6 months. Unless you're well connected. I think there's people who you can beat that if you're well connected and played the game a little bit. But so the process of raising money takes a long time. If investors know that you're up against the end of your runway, that increases their kind of that you're holding a weaker hand, right?
So in negotiation, they've got an upper hand.
So plenty of people will get into a conversation with an investor who knows that the runway's coming up, and they'll drag things out a little bit. So the founders are desperate, and that's never a good place to do a deal, is it? So, that's if you're a funded startup, you need to know about that stuff. You want to keep the runway out as reasonable as far as possible. There's a tension there because you also need to be spending your money as fast as is required to scale up. And if you're not funded, then you're going to run out of business money and die. So you need to know about that so you can go and get a job.
Yeah.
So that's at least 2 reasons, I guess.
Okay, and so a few of the companies in this room are sort of non-tech startups, and nearly everybody in this room is in the very sort of early stages of their startup. What for you is the first metric that you should begin measuring in a startup?
So if you're not, okay, so I kind of think that you should have one number that you obsess over, and everyone knows that's your number. So as a software as a service business, you sell a subscription to your software. So the MRR, monthly recurring revenue, is your number. It's just, in that industry, that is how much money comes in each month. Give or take prepayments and so on. It affects the valuation of your business, which is usually a multiple of MRR. In an investment situation, it tells you your burn rate. Everything really derives. It tells you. It goes into the numbers to work out whether you're sustainable, whether you're spending too much on acquisition. So monthly recurring revenue is in my business is the #1 metric. Every business will have its own. If you're a social network, I can't help you, but you're going to have something to do with user acquisition and how much people are using your product each day. Minutes, I don't know what it is, monthly average users. So everyone's going to have a number. I don't know if there's a most important one,
So it's
but you need,
different for
there's only so many important ones, right? And I guess you need to know what yours is.
And what are you measuring now? What are the ones? So you have your monthly, you have your monthly recurring revenue.
Yeah.
Are there other things that you have your eye on, even if you're not focusing your whole team on them at once?
Yeah.
So you record?
Yeah. So I guess you split it into financial stuff and engagement or usage. So the financial stuff is how much money you're making. Your MRR is the growth metric, the one that you're trying to grow every month. You also hiring people, you're spending more money, so your burn rate, so that basically how much money you're losing each month. You start out with a lump of money and you try and burn it in such a way that you don't run out before you can A, raise more money, or B, get to profitability and generate cash for yourself. So quite conventional stuff like cash as well. So in my business, as we've gone up market, we can rather than charging, we do charge monthly. That's the pricing, but we can collect annual payments. So what that means, that makes an immense difference in the business, in that you get a big chunk of cash that can make, like, you can look at how much money you're burning each month, and you might some months you make money even though your monthly recurring revenue you're not profitable, but you're collecting enough cash to be profitable for a month. So burn rate is key one. How much money you've got left. These are the financial ones these are the only important ones really. But then and then there's really the usage stuff. So you need to know. We don't obsess over so people create features in our product. We don't have a big counter on the wall of how many features were created today.
What do you have on the wall?
So the only thing on the wall on metrics is we have a target, like how much we want to sell this month and how many pizzas the teams kind of earn. So if we get a good deal.
What do you mean by that?
If we get a good deal,
How many pizzas the teams earn?
if we get a good deal, we draw a pizza on the whiteboard, and on Friday we go to Craft and Dough and have a pizza. If no one's brought a deal in, then there's no pizza. So that's an important metric, right, for morale.
The one metric that matters, pizza.
It is important. So yeah, so the other ones are kind of, you look at, really you then go down, you drill down into a customer level. So this new customer, how many, where you start to get focused on individual usage metrics is, it's not really about across the platform, but this new customer, they've signed up, you've got, the quicker you can get them engaged with your product, the better, the more likely they are to see value. As soon as they see value, they'll buy it. The dangerous window is the part where they've found out about your product, signed up, and then get distracted, don't understand the value, don't have time to enter some information, can't get the rest of the team bought in. So there's this little window of opportunity. As soon as somebody starts a trial, you need to drive their engagement. So you need them in creating features, viewing reports, sending emails, inviting team. So we have all of this instrumented basically. So Mixpanel's a tool we use. So you can log in there and you can see in quite creepy levels of detail what customers have been doing.
Metrics and data are always sort of borderlines on the creepy when it's kind of useful, right?
Yeah, it is. It is creepy. So you can see if you signed up and played around with the product, I can see that you're then on the pricing page. I can see that you're on the billing. You're at the page where you put your credit card in, but you didn't put your card in, and then you went back to pricing, and then you went here, and then you looked around, and you can sort of fill in the gaps. What's this person thinking, and hopefully get a call in and push them over the line.
So I was going to say, so what do you do with that information? So you follow up with people and you're like, hey, what stopped you from, putting your card?
Yeah, you'll shout across the office if whoever spots it, where's this customer that you're expecting to be a good sized deal, and we've seen good usage over their trial, they get 14 days to play with the software for free. So if you see constant usage over that trial, this is a really good prospect at this point. So yeah, if we see, okay, we're 1 day from the end. So yesterday, a good deal that was just coming to the end of its trial. We knew that their activity was still strong right up until the last minute of the trial. And guess what? We got on the call with them and did a deal essentially. So that having that visibility of activity on an account level is huge for us. I guess as you get bigger, then that becomes an aggregate, and you can start to say, right, let's try a feature and see how much a cohort's activity goes up. But in my game, the number of actual users is low enough that you can focus on an individual one and sort of watch their path through the app. And some people would never be able to go into that level of details. It's always be, if you're Facebook, you can't do that. But you can see that 0.1% of users did some new activity. And you can, it's just a question of scale. So yeah, we're measuring tons of stuff on the usage side, as well as the financial stuff.
And so Receptive is really sort of covering all bases in the build, measure, learn cycle, right? It's in terms of helping people measure and learn and then build sort of the right feature. Is that?
Yeah. I mean, it essentially is about the measuring part, really. I guess that's our core proposition is rather than guessing, rather than, so we talk about the hippo, the highest paid person's opinion. Like, you sit around in what are we going to do this sprint? What are we going to build next? And then the salesperson saying, if we built this, I'd be able to sell more big deals. Supporter saying, if you built this, customers would stop calling me every 5 minutes about this annoying thing. So there's always this kind of conversation. These prioritization meetings are painful.
Because everybody has a different top priority, right?
Yeah, exactly. So receptive is about that, measuring that, and maybe the learn part, right? It's about establishing what priorities should be. So yeah, we're involved in all that.
Yeah. So I would say it's funny. So I work with a lot of startups who are very focused on building, and they love the build part, and they suck at measuring anything and learning from anything. And so what ends up happening is that they build features that nobody cares about and don't matter.
Yeah.
But then on the other end of the spectrum, you'll get people who find it very difficult to make a decision about what their next step should be, and then they're almost sort of killed by the inaction. So, I mean, how do you tackle both of those scenarios?
So coming from a sort of as a developer, your natural urge is to solve every problem with software, and that's the only tool you've got, and you're going to use it every time. So like yesterday, the last time this came up was we were talking about which integration we're going to build next with Receptive. Now this is like a strategic point, is that we have to integrate with certain tools to close bigger customers. So you get a huge you get like a company above the size of 200, 300 people. They're going to have Salesforce, and if you don't connect to it, they're not going to buy your product, or you're going to face more barriers, right? It's going to be a more difficult sale.
This is connecting Receptive to Salesforce,
which
is using conjunction
exactly
with each other.
pull data, share data with these tools. So Salesforce is the big customer. It knows who your customers are and what you solve. So we talked about what we're going to build. We've done a load of research, and straight away we realised what we could build. And I found us almost starting the build straight away, and like, no, hold on, we're not building this until you've got the 3 customers that are using this tool today that we can actually solve a business problem for them. So that's your natural reaction as a tech person, is to build some tech. Sometimes you have got to, it's not wrong, right? Sometimes you just see what needs to be done. But more often than not, once you've solved the core proposition of your product, adding things on is really easy to do, and the question is it going to have a material impact on something that matters? So is it going to bring me, if it brings me another 2 big deals a month, it's with what we should be doing it yesterday. If it is a bullet point on a feature list on the website, does that make the difference? We don't. So that's a problem that we're trying to solve that for our customers. And
but you still find yourself falling into that
definitely.
trap of like, let's just build this thing because
Just build it.
because we can.
Yeah, but then you can't have that feature sitting around for 6 months before somebody discovers it. And there are cases where a feature is only there to sell in a sales meeting, and somebody's going to ask, do you have this download that we can use to export all that data? And if you haven't got that feature, you might not get the sale, but they're never going to use that feature. They'll use it when they quit. So there are features that are only there for the sale. They're not functional.
That's interesting.
And that happened. So that conversation came up yesterday about what can we, is there stuff that we can build that is going to look awesome in a sales demo that isn't necessarily day-to-day useful for everyone, but somebody that's going to click and it's going to overcome the objection. It's going to be somebody's killer feature, right? So how do you measure? You can't measure that. That's more of a gut feeling, right? Or that's difficult to measure. So yeah, the resist the urge to build until you've got some evidence is a good sort of rule of thumb, because it's rarely going to be a game changer building a feature. You can find them. You can find features that are the opposite end of the spectrum, just analysing everything and never building anything is another way to die, isn't it?
Right. It's almost like I keep in my head, I call it sort of pivot paralysis, and it's like this going from, I don't know, this N of one scenario to another N of one scenario, and changing in every situation you know the direction you're going in,
Yeah.
and just being so overwhelmed by options that you don't pick any of them, and
Yeah, I guess.
action first.
Yeah, I guess my version of that is like you get that list of 1,000 things you could build, and what happens then is you pick with your reptile brain. So you pick out of fear. So you're like, okay, this big customer that has my mobile number calls me at 7 o'clock at night. That's what they're shouting at me about. I mean, I don't want to go into my board meeting and explain to my investors why we lost this flagship customer. So we're going to build what they want. Terrible reason to build. Or even worse, let the developers pick. And as a developer, you're going to pick the thing that's like got the most cool technology in it. It looks best on your CV. It's fun. It's a new bit of greenfield code. You don't have to go and do difficult regression testing and making sure that your platform doesn't fall over. So your developers are going to pick. Like, your developer, your inner developer as well, is going to pick the interesting thing.
Even if you're non-tech, it's going to be feel or fun, right?
Yeah, amongst other things, right? So. Lots of bad reasons to pick things. But yeah, I'm not failure to act because of too many options isn't something that I sort of come across myself. Plenty of people do, I guess.
Do you think that it's partly because? Do you think this is more typical in with solo founders, or does it help having Hannah and a team to sort of bounce these ideas off of and help you make decisions?
I would say I mean, you need someone to bounce things off. You might sit around thinking too much because at least if I say I've got a couple of ideas, you're going to react to one. We've got something to go on, right? That must be. You should. I mean, you don't need to do you don't need to build the consensus, right? But you do. You should ask people's opinions and then feel free to ignore them.
Yeah, and we were talking about that earlier. So I guess just one last one from me, because I'm being really selfish here and I'm being Dan. And then we'll open it up to all of you guys to ask whatever questions it is that you want to ask. But I guess that thing that we kind of touched on earlier about that.
Which one was that?
Gone straight out of my head now.
So they're asking we were talking about ignoring advice.
Ignoring advice, yeah, getting advice from lots of different places, and then just, it's kind of a bit off topic, but yeah, what's your opinion on?
Yeah, I think, okay, so we did talk about, so if you ask for advice, everyone will give you advice. If you're asked for advice, it's kind of an ego thing, isn't it? You're quite happy to give advice, and it's quite like the only times that I've ever regretted actions taken with business or with product, a good product, but is where you take advice and you go against your own kind of gut feeling because 10 people have told you it was a good idea. If they were wrong, you kind of that will eat away at you for a long time. That will annoy you that you took that course of action, I suppose. It's okay to ask for advice or receive advice and ignore it all. That's okay, I guess, because there's plenty of people that take a lot of advice and build a business or get into a situation where they've sort of everyone's cooperatively come to a decision, and there's lots of writing about this, about people sort of being forced to do things by investors or by board members or by their team.
Or by just general people who mean well, right, but aren't in your business 24/7 and don't know it like you do as intimately.
So we get emails from startups. So we don't really sell to startups. We've got some startups as customers, but our core customers are people with 200 plus staff. These are like a decent sized software company, medium sized business and above. And we'll get emails all the time, oh, you guys should have a freemium product. It's telling you giving you advice because they want the premium product. They don't want to pay, but they've got the pain point. So you get these signals, and you start to think, oh, maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't, and you realise that none of those are going to impact the most important metric. So none of these $9 guys are going to make a blip on my MRR chart, so they lose. So if we're counting votes.
It's not totally democratic. Some people have a bigger vote than others.
It's not a democracy.
Yeah.
You're running a business. So we build that into our tool as well. In that we can compare and contrast what's popular and what's valuable, and that's quite an interesting insight. A lot of people let their customers vote on things without understanding the value, and this is kind of one of our big propositions is that it's not a democracy, right? It's not a popularity contest. So, I think you've got to be happy to say to people, well, yeah, I'm aware that you gave us that advice, and we ignored it, and it went wrong. We were wrong, but we had to do what we wanted to do.
But generally, as a rule, you sleep better at night knowing that if you fail, that's because of the decision that you made, not because of a decision that someone else talked you into but you weren't happy with.
Yeah,
in the future.
That's a horrible place to be.
Yeah.
So yeah,
okay.
I would fight against that.
Thank you. Okay, well, sorry about the noise, everybody. This is a real pain. We were meant to be finished like 4 weeks ago, but it's still continuing. So thanks for bearing with us on that and being patient. We'll try and speak up as much as possible, but I'm going to hand it over to you guys now to ask whatever questions you may have for Dan, whether that's about your own personal startup or just on anything that Dan said this morning. So who wants to go first? Andy?
Hi, I'm Andy from Rocket, which is kind of like a social network, I guess. I've got sort of two questions, if I'm cheeky. You said earlier on that you had about 20 grand in the bank, and that was about 3 months of your runway. So I'm just interested to know what your costs were, like where that 20 grand went over the course of 3 months. And the other question is, when you talked about you could see your users, like and how they were behaving on your site, what system you were using to do that?
Okay, so runway. I don't remember what it said, but I think the accelerator it was 18 or 20,000, and I think we'd have gone in that in May, and we raised cash in September, so we didn't run out of money. We didn't it's the fag packet
What were you
kind
spending it on though?
on salary, founder salary.
So salary mostly.
Basically, lots of train tickets, lots of staying in hotels, going to London, customer visits or customer development meetings. So yeah, tons on travel and accommodation, and then you've got to live, so you need to pay yourself salary. That was it really. What was the second question?
About what system you're using to see the user behaviour on your website?
Creepy metrics.
Mixed panel. So Google Analytics is great for like aggregate stuff. Saying 10 people arrived, 4 people looked at this page. Mixed panel is about this person in this city looked at this page, clicked that button, and then when they sign up, that ties the record together and becomes Joe Blogs, and we know their whole history and it joins the dots. So mixed panel there's a few things to it.
Cameron, did you have a question?
Same question
about
the systems, but is that it? So is it just that system plus Google Analytics, or are you using a CRM as well to get down to individuals?
So we've also got stuff in the tool that we've built. So we started with just that in that. So we can look in and this is the tool that. So I should say we use Receptive. We dog food it. So our customers can do this as well. So we can tell who's logged into Receptive and when. So you've got some like broad usage metrics in that so-and-so logged in or they didn't log in or they churned out after 30 days. So we have some internal stuff as well, but we haven't done a lot. Like we've deliberately not built tons of we've got very little dashboards internally that you can't see. So the dashboards are all it's mixed panel. It's there's very little kind of hidden stuff. these days you don't need to build a lot of back end stuff to sort of analyse all this. Just buy it in.
Thanks.
Hi. Do you look at every user's behaviour, or if not, how do I identify which users you do look at?
It depends who you are. So so sales in sales you'll be looking at customers. Say we get into a pilot program with a large customer, and they might say, okay, we're going to run a pilot for 60 days. At that point, customer success are keeping an eye on usage levels and where they see a gap. So, okay, we've got a customer, they've invited the 10 members of their team, 4 of them have never logged in. So we get that data, and customer success will reach out to them individually and say, here's the reasons why you maybe should log in, or say that organisation has never run a particular feature which we feel is part of it delivers a lot of value. So your only job during a pilot or a trial is to prove to the customer that there is value in the software, right? So if there's one that we know flicks that switch for people, you've not run that, we'll gently encourage you to do that, and that's sort of semi-automated. Some of it's automated, some of it is customer success thinking about it. What can we do to show value to this user? So different customers at different stages. There's it's all segmented. Whether they're trialer, like self-service trialer, whether they're like a signed-up pilot program with a bigger organisation, whether they're a paying customer, whether they're an established customer that we're not worried about. We know they're happy and they're firing stuff around all day. So different approaches for these different sort of segments.
Is that an alarm on your phone?
I don't think it was me.
Okay.
No, it's mine.
Okay. Good. Just checking.
All right.
Okay. Have we got any more questions? Wendy?
Yeah, you said quite early on about the funding that it was knowing how to play the game.
Yeah.
What did you mean by that? Could you expand
So
on that?
I found that raising finance was like it's an opaque process from the outside. You don't really. I didn't really have any. I've raised money twice. The first, you need to know the game. It is a game. There's like there are investors. There are lots of founders chasing the same pots of money. Investors say yes infrequently, and they say no. They don't say anything, and you take it as a yes. And so it is a competitive situation. So you need to be investable, and that, as much as anything, is about the story that you tell about your startup, and talk, showing that you understand the size of the market, whether you're actually going after a big market, whether you can build a team that is able to do that, whether you've got whether you've got some track record and traction. So I think more than anything, growth solves all problems. So if you're talking to angel investors or venture capitalists, if you're growing and growing and growing and uncontrollably growing, and you don't even know why all these people are throwing money at you, and you're not going to have any problems raising money. And that's not been my experience, right? But that's the goal. That's where if you were there, you're not going to have any problem. Whereas if you've got the concept and you've got no traction, there are people who raise money from that position, but you're going to need to have a bunch of the other boxes ticked. You're going to need to understand, there's not going to be, you're not going to want to be too many big questions about whether your team's capable, or whether there's a big market there, whether there's a technology that in the tech game anyway, there's technology that you've got that's providing a bit of an advantage. So yeah, I think it's a game that you need to understand how to play it, I guess. Which a good startup accelerator is one way of sort of doing that, but you can read all the books, the blogs there.
Whose blog would you recommend as required reading for understanding the investor game?
All of them, I guess.
Give us one of your favourites, or the last one that you read?
Well, the one I read Sastra, which is a guy that, but he's now a VC, but he's a SaaS entrepreneur, Jason Lemkin that sold a company. So he's like, that's a very typical kind of Silicon Valley kind of story that you got to extract the bits you can for doing a startup in Britain. It's not completely applicable to the amounts of money that people invest at seed stage in the UK are much smaller. The perception is that it's harder to raise. You raise less money. There's less risk. There's appetite for risk here. Some of those might be true. I've only ever raised here, but those are the perceptions. On the other hand, we don't have to pay $150,000 a year for a junior developer, which you might need to do in San Francisco. So we have our advantages. But.
So from a UK perspective, are there any particular blogs that you recommend?
I don't know. I'm not a great blog read. I don't follow a lot of blogs. I just pick up. I just follow lots of founder startup-y stuff on Twitter and just pick up stuff along the way, I guess.
See where it takes you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know any names I'd recommend. The problem is that I think this is fair to say, a lot of the stories aren't told because you won't hear the story of how a founder has. The only way you'll hear a story of how a founder has raised money typically is by face-to-face in a face-to-face situation. You never write that up during you don't write about the details of the deal. People write retrospectively about things that went right or wrong. But there's a lot of people. For example, if there was a VC that had a bad reputation, you're not going to find that out by reading any blog posts, really. There's lots of bad people, and there are lots of people without integrity or without enough integrity in the startup world, in the investment world, and you aren't going to find a list of those people online, but you find them out from talking to founders. So really playing the game, I guess, means knowing people that have done it and finding out the real details. It's not all public because people can't and won't. It's not like you go on TripAdvisor and give someone a 1-star review when you sent them a deck and we've sent decks out. You send a deck to an investor, and we use a tool that tracks open rates, openings, and so on. And you see that deck being opened up in Silicon Valley somewhere, within minutes. There are plenty of untrustworthy people. So, learning about those and learning about how to guard against that stuff and how to not waste your time. This is sort of that's the tough part, I guess.
I think we've got time for one more question, and then we're going to get back to coffee and muffins and things.
That's another one.
Is there anyone who hasn't asked a question first?
Can I just ask, how do you protect the IP?
The IP of the software. It's all we own the copyright. We don't give the code away. Code stays inside. It's basic IP stuff.
Do you say when you're sending stuff out, it's going to San Francisco?
Okay, so if you talk about, so there's a lot of kind of assumptions, I guess, that you got to keep things secret, and I guess in the startup world, the culture is more about you're gonna gain more from sharing information than you're gonna lose from disclosing stuff. You don't put anything down that you don't put anything in a deck that your competitors get, because if a VC gets it and they're considering an investment or they are putting money into another deal, they'll quite happily share that information because it's a competitive advantage for them. So just decide what you're comfortable sharing and what you're not.
And there's that difference between ideas and execution as well, isn't it?
Yeah. You should always talk about your ideas because
everyone's probably already had them.
The most important thing is that you need to find out if no one cares about your idea. The as fast as possible. And the worst thing you can do is sit around polishing an idea that doesn't do anything.
Well, someone else is out there.
Execute. Yeah, you're not going to find out until you've shown the world. They've ignored you, and then you've reformulated your message, and they still ignore you, and then you start to get
I'm picking up a
people
theme
interested.
here.
Yeah, get it out there.
So persistence and pivoting and sharing.
Yeah, I guess to an extent you need to grow a thick skin, because some people are going to say horrible things. They're going to tell you it's a waste of time. These are the reasons why you'll fail, and you need to smile and nod because they might be right. And if you you need to not be too defensive about it. Right? You need to be ready to debate the merits, right? But when people say that I can't buy, I've had people say, well, I can't buy this product. It looks terrible. And number one, it did look terrible. I built it, right? So I'm not a designer. Number two, you know that you can fix that and go back, and if they're concentrating on how it looks, they're not the early adopter that's fallen in love with the kernel of an idea that you're trying to solve, and those people are your friends. Those are the people you need to grab at an early stage, and if they obsess over some minor detail, they're probably not the valuable person at that point. At some point you need to look after the people that are going to worry about colours and how square your corners are and things. Those people come later. You'll serve those people later. You'll sell those people later. The early adopters will see past the flaws in your product to this, and they get it, and they'll pay for it. Find those people and take their money.
It's a good piece of advice. And so, okay, just to end on a final question, which we ask a lot of the people who are guests for Founder Brunch. What would you, now in the position that you're in, go back and what advice would you give your first-time founder self? What do you wish you knew back then that you know now?
Yeah, don't surround yourself with experts. You're the expert now, so you don't need experts. You don't need people. There's a lot of characters floating around in the startup ecosystem that they want some income. They're service providers, or they are. You can ignore all these people. They're people that bring kind of gravitas to your business because they've done it before, probably, or they're older and you're young, or they've got, some of these people are just going to tag along for the cash. You can ignore those. You don't need that. You just need to grow, concentrate on the things that matter rather than the things that people tell you matter. You know what matters, so worry about those things.
Thank you.
Does that answer? I don't know.
Yeah, it's your piece of advice to yourself.
Yeah.
It can be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us, Dan, and for spending this time and sharing your insights with us. Give a big thank you to Dan for joining us. And apologies again for the noise outside. They must have heard us because they quietened down for a little bit towards the end, which is awesome. We're going to put the music back on. We're going to